If you're planning to go into Uldaur on day one, you probably are stressing right now about what raid composition you're gonna bring, what classes you want, how many classes you wanna stack, and pretty much everything else you need to know about preparing for phase 2 launch in exactly 1 week. Well, today we're gonna break down a very realistic raid comp that you can use on Horde and Alliance, and why you might bring some of those classes or why you might swap those out. Now, if you hit all of the main buffs, you're probably gonna be pretty set, but know beforehand that we did this live on stream, and also that there are some classes you could stack much more heavily. This is just something that's gonna be very useful for pretty much every guild that you can go in and full clear all of the hard modes. Now, last before I get into it, you might actually need a very specific comp if you plan on clearing Algalon that week, but if you do, then you already know exactly what you're gonna be running with. Enjoy. Depends on what healers you're running, but most likely this is what the tank composition is gonna be, right? Most likely this is what you're gonna be running as tanks in Uldaur. Most guilds are gonna run this. You can run this. You can also run this. This is probably the second most common that you're gonna see. You can also run this, or run this, or run this. All of the tanks are good. This is probably later on in the phase gonna be the most common for top guilds. It's gonna be like this, but in progression, you'll probably just see this, okay? Healer wise, Disciplined Priest is essential, okay? Disciplined Priest is absolutely essential. Holy Paladin is absolutely essential. One thing I would probably suggest and is very solid is actually bringing 2 Holy Paladins, maybe even more. And for a lot of fights, Resto Druids are actually cracked out. Now, it depends on how many healers you're running. There's some fights where people are running up to 6 healers. There's some fights where you're running 1 or 2. Probably 2 is like the safest bet on Hodier, but you can run 1, but 2 is just like more reliable. Now you have like to decide what else you're running, right? You can have a Resto Druid, or sorry, Resto Shaman, fine. You can have a Holy Priest, also fine. You can have more Holy Paladins. If there's a ton of raid damage going out, great, but Resto Shamans can be like phenomenal on some fights. So let's say like as an average group comp, let's say you're running 5 heals because you're a savage. Make sure that like you guys, make sure you have off specs for DPS. Make sure you have off specs for DPS. 1 Boomkin. Wow, Boomkin looking juicy. 1 Arcane Mage, probably Arcane Fire, but Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage looking juicy. 2 Fury Warriors. I'm just kidding. Sorry. For progression, very solid group comps. You can run 2 Frost DKs and 1 Unholy DK. You can run more than that, but it's not necessarily necessary. Okay, necessarily necessary, who cares? Now you can run double Affliction and double Demonology, or triple Affliction, 1 Demonology, whatever your guild decides. But Warlocks are probably gonna relatively carry you in this raid early on. Warlocks and Rogues, and so then you're looking at probably 2 or 3 Rogues, or sorry, 3 or potentially even 4 Rogues. You're gonna have a Survival Hunter in your group. You're gonna have an Enhanced Shaman in your group. Now, from there, here's the question. Do you bring a warrior to give you Commanding Shout? Maybe. Probably. It depends on what your guild is doing, or you might have someone scuffed and you have to do what Take Note had to do for us, and you have to run as an imp, right? So probably. I do not believe Commanding Shout and Blood Pack will stack anymore. They should not stack in the newest version, like at 1 release happens, but it might, but it shouldn't. But it shouldn't, okay? Do know that, guys. Now, another thing I think guilds might do is run 2 Hunters. It's a very safe bet, right? Like now we're in the zone of we have everything we relatively need, and bring your Retribution Paladin. Why bring your ret paladin? More paladin buffs, right? So now we only have 4 paladins. This is not looking at a run that's probably going to kill Algalon. You might need more paladins. You might swap compositions though to kill Algalon, realistically. This is like your normal guild that can clear everything. Ret paladin, don't just like not bring them because their damage is low. They bring a lot of utility, although they do have to scuff themselves by going into DSAC, but they might just run 2 specs where it's like one spec you don't need DSAC and 1 spec you do. Honestly, if you're going into Algalon, you might even have him swap to being a Holy Paladin also and like get rid of the whole ret himself, right? You're like, what else are you missing out on? Nothing. You just go to another Holy Paladin instead of the ret. The stonks are up. For the purples, you might also, as you see, I have two hunters in here. You might go with 2 mages. You might just go with 2 mages. It's not like they're not stackable, but this is like, you also could go with 2 enhanced shamans, right? You could opt out of like one of the, I think we're gonna see most runs have at least 3 DKs. 3 DKs, 3 rogues, 4 locks is like a very safe bet, but you might see some runs where you're running more DKs, especially if they've played the raid a lot of times. You can run a lot of unholy DKs. They're very solid, but frost DKs are looking phenomenal on progression, especially for Alliance. And again, know that you can easily swap out your protection paladin, but the good thing about prop paladin is this in particular. They have a cheat death. So hello. And then you might have to bring out like your feral, I guess, but the most common is probably going to be this setup, Prot and feral. But you'll see some guilds that run double Prot, and now you're going to have to go and get yourself a bleed, right? But most common, this is like a very standard. You will be able to clear everything. Have these guys have off specs, and you should be able to clear. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what raid comp you guys are actually bringing, which classes you're going to be stacking, or what you really think of it all. If you're going to bring multiple warriors, or if you're going to bring multiple hunters, multiple mages, whatever. I just kind of want to know in the comments so that we can get a good idea of what everybody will actually be rolling. Today was just a generalization of what you can run to make sure that you clear the raid very easily. Something that's very simple. And from there, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure if you want to see some of these videos that come out early, or if you want to see some exclusive content, to support the stream by joining the channel memberships, and I will see you all on the next one.